very special place. The National Park Service has the great privilege of being the caretaker of this 2,200-acre memorial dedicated to the memory of 40 remarkable people. As they boarded their aircraft in Newark 20 years ago today, these 40 individuals never imagined the challenge they were about to face. In a moment's time, their journey to San Francisco became a harrowing test of their strength and courage. The passengers and crew members of Flight 93 met this test as heroes and literally changed the course of history. This morning, I would like to respectfully extend a special welcome to the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, and the Second Gentleman, Douglas Emhoff, and to the 43rd President of the United States, George W. Bush, and First Lady Laura Bush. I'd also like to provide a special welcome to the Secretary of the Interior, Deb Holland. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Governor, Mr. Tom Wolfe. And finally, the President of the families of Flight 93, Mr. Gordon Bell. On this day of observance, I am happy to express our thanks for the devoted support to this memorial by communities like Shanksville, Stoystown, Friedens, Somerset, and countless others over the last 20 years. Their commitment and dedication will never be forgotten. We are greatly honored today by the presence of more than 500 family and friends of the passengers and crew members. In addition, literally, millions of people around the world are joining us as a virtual audience. I sincerely thank each of you for taking a part and being here in this special moment to honor the heroes of Flight 93. As our nation continues to work together to fight the global pandemic, we encourage those in attendance today to join us in wearing a face covering. We have come together with the families and passengers and crew members to honor the 40 heroes of Flight 93. By observing this precaution, we can best protect ourselves and look out for each other on this day of remembrance. 20 years ago today, when the United States was attacked, numerous heroes emerged in New York, the Pentagon, and aboard Flight 93. The 40 passengers and crew members, mostly strangers to one another, collectively stopped their hijacked plane from reaching its target. Their actions saved hundreds, perhaps thousands of lives and preserved the United States Capitol, the symbol and the center of our democracy. For 20 years, they have been remembered as examples of the best of humanity, having displayed strength and resilience in the face of tremendous adversity. We remember and we come together today to honor them. Let us also remember those who perished at the World Trade Center and at the Pentagon on that day 20 years ago. I ask that you please stand as you are able for our national anthem performed by the President's own United States Marine Band. Please remain standing afterwards for the invocation led by Reverend Dr. Margaret Grun Kibben, the chaplain of the United States House of Representatives.
Oh, life that rises us through the perilous fight. On the ramparts we watch, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, sailors and star-spangled banner yet wave on the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Would you pray with me? Holy and eternal God, we approach you today, keenly aware of that bucolic morning 20 years ago, when our nation's peace was shattered and thousands of souls perished at the hands of evil. As we honor the heroic sacrifices of the men and women of Flight 93, we yearn for a sense of your loving presence, because only in you can we find respite, security, and peace in the midst of our memories, our grief, and even our anger. God, we pray your blessing over this gathering and on all for whom this moment is an excruciating reminder of fear and loss. Speak into the shadows of these last 2 decades, which left thousands of families bereft of loved ones, and our country fractured by the devastation we have seen and experienced. God, we pray your blessing over this gathering. Remind us that the virtue that our heroes displayed is still alive, that freedom by your grace is still ours. Then ennoble us as a nation to hold on to our unity. We will not ever surrender our commitment to liberty and justice, no matter the cost. Bless us with a sense of resilience born in our faith in you, and may our tribute to those who gave the full measure in defense of freedom be worthy of their sacrifice and given in your honor. God bless America, and receive our prayers as we offer them in the strength of your name. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Gibbon, for those beautiful inspirational words. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this moment, 20 years ago, 40 brave individuals, realizing their hijacked plane was part of a larger attack, were preparing to act. By talking to people on the ground, those aboard Flight 93 learned that the World Trade Center and the Pentagon had been struck by other airliners. Galvanized by that knowledge, the passengers and crew members joined together and decided to fight back. In a moment of terrible uncertainty, they were determined to control their fate. Their collective action that morning continues to inspire Americans and people all around the world. It is truly fitting that we pause to remember those individuals who lost their lives and saved so many when Flight 93 crashed into the hallowed ground just next to us at 10:03 a.m. Helping to pay tribute to the 40 passengers and crew members this morning is Alan M. Handman, the architect of the United States Capitol on September 11, 2001. Mr. Handman will lead the reading of the names, joined by family members who will read the names of their loved ones. After each name is read, Kevin Husek and Christian Boyd, who were first on the scene with an ambulance crew out of Somerset to respond after the crash. Those true heroes, those patriots, both Kevin and Christian, will ring the bells of remembrance in their memory. Following the moment of remembrance, retired Los Angeles City Fire Department Battalion Chief Stephen Ruda will offer a brief reading.
Christian Adams.
Lorraine Grace Bay, our angel.
Todd M. Beamer. Alan Anthony Bevan. Mark Bingham.
Diora Francis Bodley.
Sandy Law Bradshaw.
Marion R. Britton.
Thomas Burnett.
William Joseph Cashman. Georgine Rose Corrigan Marcy. Patricia Cushing.
Just let me know who. And I'll give the budget.
Captain Jason Matthew Dahl. Patrick Joseph Driscoll.
My husband, Edward Warner Pelt.
Jane C. Folger.
Colleen Frazier.
Andrew Sonny Garcia.
Our beautiful loved one, Jeremy Logan Leck.
Kristen Osterholm White Gould.
Lauren Catuzzi Grantolis, and our unborn child.
Wanda Anita Green.
My dad, Donald Freeman Green.
My sister, Linda Christine Grunwald. My beloved brother and son, Richard Jerry Witagno.
My brother-in-law, First Officer Leroy Homer Jr.
Toshia Huga.
My mother,
and Flight Attendant C.C. Ross Lyles.
My grandmother, Hilda Marson.
Valeska Martinez.
My sister, Nicole Carol Miller.
Louis Joseph Nackey II.
Donald Arthur Peterson. Jean Hoadley Peterson. Mark David Rothenberg. Christine Ann Snyder.
My dad, John Talladani.
Honor Elizabeth Wadio.
My cousin, Debbie Jacobs Welsh.
Years ago, the world watched in horror as the terrorist attacks unfolded at the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and in this field near Shanksville. On that day, my vision here at this holy site was one of a lone fire engine with its crew at the ready for potential rescue and firefighting. Those first responders were shadowed by smoke rising from the impact zone into the nearby forest of the hemlock trees bordering this field. Now my thoughts at the moment were that was that this was no longer a common field. It was traveled by so many who lived in this area, but this field was now sacred ground, and in common no more. So how did this vision of tragedy turn into a memory of complete victory? A wife of a fellow Los Angeles firefighter, Susie Bird, made a quilt, and then she asked Minnie to place a written message on the patches of that quilt. When I was given the pen, I recollected the vision that I had seen on September the 11th, 2001, and I wrote, "A common field one day, a field of honor forever." Now these simple words caught the attention of one of the archivists, who collected many thoughts that were sent here to this beautiful memorial. These words became the preamble for the mission statement that has guided and processed for permanently memorializing the 40 passengers and crew of Flight 93 over the past 20 years. Now, please, hear these words once again. A common field one day, a field of honor forever. May all who visit this place remember the collective acts of courage and sacrifice of the passengers and crew. Revere this hallowed ground as a final rescue place of those heroes, and reflect on the power of individuals who chose to make a difference. Peace be with you.
Thank you, Chief Ruda. Your eloquent words have truly helped to define our understanding of this hallowed ground, sir. Thank you. Once again, our sincere appreciation to Mr. Hampman, all of our family readers, and finally bell ringers Kevin Dusek and Christian Boyd. This nation relies upon the men and women of our military for our protection. We owe them a debt of gratitude which truly can never be repaid for their sacrifices they and their families have made in preserving this great nation. I would like to acknowledge the men and women currently serving in our nation's military and all of our veterans who have so bravely served this country. Assisting with today's observance are 40 sailors from USS Somerset. Named for Somerset County, where Flight 93 crashed, she is one of 3 ships that remembered the tragic events of September 11th, along with USS Arlington and USS New York. Thank you, sailors, for being with us this morning. It is a great honor to introduce Captain John Kurtz, Commanding Officer, USS Somerset. Captain Kurtz grew up in Pennsylvania and graduated from the Naval Academy in 1996. Before commanding the Somerset, he served as Naval Flight Officer and as the Executive Officer at USS Nimitz. please join me in welcoming Captain John Kurtz. Virtus per adversa. Courage through adversity. That is the motto of USS Somerset and the reason we gather here today. To honor a remarkable act of courage by 40 strangers in the face of unimaginable adversity. Good morning, families and friends of the heroes of Flight 93. Vice President Harris, Mr. Emhoff, Governor Wolfe, former President Bush, Mrs. Bush, Secretary Holland, Mr. Felt, Mr. Clark, and Chief Ruda. It is one of the highest honors of my life to be here representing the nearly 435 United States sailors and Marines currently serving aboard USS Somerset. Courage through adversity, a motto rooted in heroic action 20 years ago in the skies above us, means a lot to our crew. The story of Flight 93 is one of 40 people brought together by circumstance, most of whom knew no one on board, banding together in time of crisis. I could think of no greater act of service, no higher calling, than prioritizing the lives of others when one's very existence is at stake. Defying comprehension, these unsuspecting people, suddenly thrust into an extraordinary situation, acted with complete selflessness in defense of cherished national symbols, important beacons to the world, and countless nameless faces below. On September 10, 2001, it may have been impossible to imagine, and yet we find ourselves here today in the quiet Pennsylvania field, reverently remembering such a selfless act. The Department of Defense's theme for this anniversary is Educate and Remember. Aboard Somerset, we take this responsibility very seriously. Every month, we gather our newly arrived sailors to help them adjust to ship life. This is their introduction to the crew and ours to them. In recent years, many sailors reporting aboard were not yet in kindergarten or even born on that day the world stood still in 2001. This fact alone drives us to educate and remember, as we must recount to a fresh group of faces the story of our ship's namesake. We begin by repeating the ship's motto, pointing out to these young men and women who have no memory of that day that they serve on a ship that still means so much to so many Americans. They are presented with their duty. Join Team Somerset in rising above adversity, and together, as a crew, carry on the legacy of those 40 heroes. It is our job to continue defending those ideals for which they sacrificed. For their path to heroism was uninvited and unrequested. When those passengers and crew members boarded Flight 93 20 years ago, they assumed it was just another flight, to or from vacation, or simply part of a day's work. Adversity took them by surprise. But in response, they joined together and fought back. They put others ahead of themselves, a testament to service and sacrifice. This is what we live for on board U.S. Somerset. Strangers banding together in terms of service and sacrifice. We on USS Somerset have a distinct advantage against adversity compared to those 40. We know it's coming. We will find ourselves in the enemy's sights, in the line of fire, standing between our country and those who would do her harm. We owe it to those 40 heroes to be ready. They deserve nothing less than our utmost effort to build on their example. I am proud to report that the sailors and Marines of USS Somerset, some of whom are with us today, are ready to put others ahead of themselves. While Somerset's official motto honors the legacy of those individuals who mustered their courage in the face of adversity on that fateful morning, painted on the ship's hangar door, the phrase uttered in the moment of their heroic struggle reflects the inspirational actions of those heroes and serves as a stark reminder and masterful motivator for Team Somerset.
Towering over the crew in times of peace and conflict alike, these words remind us all of sacrifice, service, and the call to rise above adversity. I am humbled to repeat those words today as USS Somerset honors the heroes of Flight 93 and the loved ones left behind by their sacrifice. So I will end as I end all of my addresses to the crew. Team Somerset, let's roll!
Ladies and gentlemen, I think our nation is in truly incredible hands. Having gotten to know the captain and the sailors of the Somerset and all throughout Somerset County over the last couple of days, Captain, you truly have made this event even more memorable. So, sir, thank you again for your service. God bless you, and it's so great to have you and your sailors here today. Thank you. We are honored today also by the presence of many elected officials from all levels of government. Among them, U.S. Senators Bob Casey, Pat Toomey, Congressman John Joyce, State Senator Pat Stefano, and representing the incredible, beautiful people of Somerset County, a group I work with so often, Commissioners Gerald Walker, Colleen Dawson, and Pamela Tokar-Hickes. For everyone, we truly appreciate you being with us here today. On September 11th, 2001, Governor Tom Ridge arrived here to survey the crash site. 1 week later, he met with family members when they first visited this field of honor. In the following days, President Bush summoned him to Washington to lead this country's homeland security efforts. Governor Ridge wishes he could be with us this morning, as the families of Flight 93 mean so much to him. When I spoke to him just a few short days ago, he asked me to remind everyone that the kindness, generosity, and compassion displayed by all Americans after September 11th remain vital to our nation's resilience and security. Governor Ridge, you are indeed with us in spirit, and thank you so much for your support over these many years. For truly, in the past 20 years, there's no question that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has been deeply involved in honoring the heroes of Flight 93. That involvement has been vital, truly vital, to the creation of this memorial. Joining us now, a Pennsylvania native and the 47th governor of this great state of Pennsylvania. Everyone, please help me welcome Governor Tom Wolfe.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And thank you for honoring me, allowing me to be here today. Pennsylvania is indeed proud to have been involved with these memorial services and with everything to honor the people who gave so much to all of us on that day. But every time I visit this memorial, I am struck by the solemnity of the place. Even more, I'm struck by the compassion and the heart of the people who built this place of remembrance. The people who visit to share stories of love and of grief, and the people who care for this space, and the visitors who come here day in and day out. Every year, we remember the lives lost to violent terrorist attacks on September 11th, 2001. This year, we're commemorating the 20th anniversary of this tragedy. And just like we do every year, our nation will come together to mourn and to remember. We remember our first responders and all those who went into danger on September 11th and in the days that followed to protect others. We remember the extraordinary acts of bravery and compassion committed by ordinary people on that day. And here in Pennsylvania, we particularly remember the actions of the 40 passengers and the crew on Flight 93 who fought back and who sacrificed themselves to save the lives of strangers. This story and this place remind us each day of what it means to be an American. In times of strife, we Americans, we come together. We comfort each other. We protect each other. And we stand up for each other. This memorial is a powerful reminder of what we have lost, but it's also a powerful reminder of the strength of the American spirit and of what we can do when we come together for the greater good of each of us. September 11th, 2001 was one of our nation's darkest days. And now, 20 years later, we look back and remember the people who brought light to that darkness and who gave us hope when we were all sunk in despair, who reminded us how far we Americans can go to protect our fellow Americans. It's their example that each of us should strive to follow today and every day. Thank you very much.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Was grace that taught my heart to feel, and grace my fears relieved. A precious gift that grace appeared me out. I first believed. Toils and snares I have already come. His grace had brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home.
The National Park Service has enjoyed the support of several partners in establishing this amazing memorial. We are grateful, of course, to the families of Flight 93, the friends of Flight 93, the National Park Foundation, and to all of those who have helped make the memorial what it is today, 20 years after September 11th. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce Mr. Gordon Felt, the president of the families of Flight 93. He is the brother of passenger Edward Porter Felt and has long been the key spokesperson for the families. I've known Gordy for several years now, and I greatly admire his unwavering commitment to the Flight 93 National Memorial and to the 40 heroes. He has been an inspiration as well as a good friend to me and to so many of us here gathered today. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Gordon Felt.
Madam Vice President, Second Gentleman, President and Mrs. Bush, Secretary Holland, Governor Wolfe, Captain Kurtz, Ambassador Kibben, Steve, Superintendent Clark, distinguished guests, families, friends, ambassadors, and all that join us today, near or far. I welcome you to the 20th Remembrance Ceremony of September 11th, 2001, here at the Flight 93 National Memorial. To the men and women that serve aboard the USS Somerset here today, and all of those active duty members and veterans in attendance, near and far, you honor us with your presence. And we must never forget that there are thousands of your brethren gravely injured or that have lost their lives while serving or as a result of their service during these past 20 years. Their loss reminds us that September 11th was not a singular event, but a date that marked a cultural paradigm shift in our country and for freedom-loving people across the globe. To the families of Flight 93 here and at home, honoring a loved one, my heart goes out to you. Having lost a brother on September 11th, I too live with a grief that is deep, consuming, and always present. For those that lost loved ones in the terrorist attacks on our country 20 years ago today, you know that we can never move on, but that we must continue to move forward. On September 11th, 2001, we lost a total of 2,977 innocent souls. And that morning, more than 6,000 people were injured in the attack on our country. 2,606 died in the World Trade Center, 125 at the Pentagon, and 246 innocent people were murdered on the 4 hijacked planes, 40 of which were on Flight 93, brought down here in a field just outside of Shanksville, Pennsylvania, as our heroes fought to overcome the evil brought to our shores that morning. To date, an additional 2,000 first responders that took part in the immediate rescue and continued recovery efforts have died from related illnesses. And with every month, we continue to lose more. The ripple effect of September 11th is unfathomable. There are still many questions to be answered about the day, facts to be declassified and released, and justice to be served. So much of September 11th involved pain, loss, and terror. Our lives were never to be the same. And yet, from the ashes of the day, stories of heroism and extraordinary courage emerged, providing hope to a world adrift in fear and confusion. First responders running into burning buildings with little regard for their own safety, while citizens inside those buildings refused to run from danger so that they could offer assistance and comfort to those less able, surely knowing that their decision would cost them all but their honor. And here in the skies over southwestern Pennsylvania, a group of 40 individuals, mostly strangers, when becoming aware of what was taking place on the ground that morning, found the courage to band together at a moment's notice, without regard for political, religious, professional, or cultural differences. Our 40, under extreme conditions, were able to change the course of history, averting the potential of our final image that fateful day being the Capitol dome, collapsed and on fire, the greatest symbol of our democracy in ruins. As the personification of that symbol, our heroes embraced the tenets of democracy that no expression of terrorism will ever extinguish. E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. Our heroes united. They formulated a plan when confronted by a great evil. They prayed. They voted on a course of action, and then they struck. Though in the process they lost their lives, there is no question that they won the first battle in this current war on terrorism. 35 minutes, 9:28 to 10:03 a.m. From the initial terrorist attack on Flight 93 until the moment the plane came down on our sacred ground. A lifetime. A moment. Forever. Yesterday. Here on the ground, first responders, aware of what was taking place in New York, at the Pentagon, and in the midst of fear and uncertainty, instinctively reacted to the horror that was brought to their rural community in a way that has forever altered their lives. These proud men and women of Somerset County and the surrounding region demonstrated everything that is awesome about the United States of America. Terrorism met rural America, proud, strong, determined. The relationship our families and our nation has forged with this local community is extraordinary. To our extended family here in the Somerset County region, you will forever have our complete gratitude. You have embraced us and the story of our loved ones in a selfless, fiercely protective fashion, even as you continue to move forward, carrying the pain and anguish thrust upon your community 20 years ago. Recently, I was listening to former Congressman Trey Gowdy discussing the ultimate sacrifices made by our men and women in uniform. During his remarks, I was struck by a common theme that I did not recall highlighted in prior years. It was a theme that I felt strongly was consistent with the story of the heroes of Flight 93 and all those we lost on September 11th. I experienced a moment of clarity that brought my understanding of heroism and of sacrifice to an uncomfortable reality, moving me to question who we are as a society. What struck such a nerve was not the annual reminder to honor and remember the thousands of lives ripped from the embrace of their families the morning of September 11th, 2001, including the 40 heroes of Flight 93. But rather the question to be considered is, are we worthy of their sacrifice? Are we worthy? Do we as individuals, communities, and as a country conduct ourselves in a manner that would make those that sacrificed so much and fought so hard on September 11th proud of who we have become? Do we share the same willingness to sacrifice for others in little ways as well as large? To act when necessary for no other reason than to accomplish a noble goal, egoless, and with no other motivation than to do what is right? Do we cherish the hard-earned freedoms that we enjoyed, secured every generation by those willing to stand toe-to-toe with anyone or any country willing to steal them away? The real question that we must all ask ourselves is, have we as a society moved on and left the hard-earned lessons of September 11th behind? Have we become desensitized to what really happened that fateful morning? Have we diminished the courageous actions of these brave men and women, these heroes we honor today at the Flight 93 National Memorial, as well as those in New York City and at the Pentagon, by relegating their stories to the history books? As a country, we shouldn't seek to move on, but rather let us dedicate ourselves to moving forward, honoring and remembering the sacrifices made on September 11th, the lessons we learned, remembering the names, the individuals, and the collective actions of so many that day. Let us be worthy of the selfless sacrifices that were made. Let us remember who we became on September 12th. In the aftermath of September 11th, we saw beyond our differences so that in unity we could survive the devastation of the day. E pluribus unum. Out of many, we became one. That is the inspiration of September 11th. Whether it was in the air or on the ground that morning, heroism was revealed. History was made, and the course of our lives were changed forever. The path we follow is up to us. Let us strive to be worthy of those we lost that morning, our 40 heroes, our loved ones, and the thousands of other innocent lives extinguished that day and in the aftermath of September 11th. E pluribus unum. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordy. An enduring moment in the days after September 11th occurred when President George W. Bush used a bullhorn to speak to firefighters at Ground Zero in New York. His words provided sorely needed encouragement to a grieving country. A common thread of heroism running through each of the 3 attack sites on September 11th was the devotion to duty shown by our first responders. They made the nation proud then, and they continue to do that now. Thank you to all of our first responders across these great United States, for we are truly grateful for your service. I'm greatly honored now to present our next speaker, the 43rd President of the United States of America, George W. Bush. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Accompanying him today is First Lady Laura Bush, who occupies a special place in the hearts and families of Flight 93, for on September 17th, Mrs. Bush traveled here to offer her condolences and to those of America to the families and passengers of Flight 93. President Bush is fondly remembered by everyone involved in the effort to commemorate the heroes of Flight 93 for signing the act that created this national memorial on September 24th, 2002. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 43rd President of the United States, George W. Bush.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Laura and I are honored to be with you. Madam Vice President, Vice President Cheney, Governor Wolfe, Secretary Holland, and distinguished guests. 20 years ago, we all found in different ways, in different places, but all at the same moment, that our lives would be changed forever. The world was loud with carnage and sirens, and then quiet with missing voices that would never be heard again. These lives remain precious to our country and infinitely precious to many of you. Today we remember your loss, we share your sorrow, and we honor the men and women you have loved so long and so well. For those too young to recall that clear September day, it is hard to describe the mix of feelings we experienced. There was horror at the scale of destruction, and awe at the bravery and kindness that rose to meet it. There was shock at the audacity of evil, and gratitude for the heroism and decency that opposed it. In the sacrifice of the first responders, in the mutual aid of strangers, in the solidarity of grief and grace, the actions of an enemy revealed the spirit of a people, and we were proud of our wounded nation. In these memories, the passengers and crew of Flight 93 must always have an honored place. Here, the intended targets became the instruments of rescue, and many who are now alive owe a vast, unconscious debt to the defiance displayed in the skies above this field. It would be a mistake to idealize the experience of those terrible events. All that many people could initially see was the brute randomness of death. All that many could feel was unearned suffering. All that many could hear was God's terrible silence. There are many who still struggle with a lonely pain that cuts deep within. In those fateful hours, we learned other lessons as well. We saw that Americans were vulnerable, but not fragile. That they possess a core of strength that many have found they were actually walking step by step toward grace. As a nation, our adjustments have been profound. Many Americans struggled to understand why an enemy would hate us with such zeal. The security measures incorporated into our lives are both sources of comfort and reminders of our vulnerability. And we have seen growing evidence that the dangers to our country can come not only across borders, but from violence that gathers within. There is little cultural overlap between violent extremists abroad and violent extremists at home. But in their disdain for pluralism, in their disregard for human life, in their determination to defile national symbols, they are children of the same foul spirit, and it is our continuing duty to confront them. After 9/11, millions of brave Americans stepped forward and volunteered to serve in the armed forces. The military measures taken over the last 20 years to pursue dangers at their source have led to debate. But one thing is certain. We owe an assurance to all who have fought our nation's most recent battles. Let me speak directly to veterans and people in uniform. The cause you pursued at the call of duty is the noblest America has to offer. You have shielded your fellow citizens from danger. You have defended the beliefs of your country and advanced the rights of the downtrodden. You have been the face of hope and mercy in dark places. You have been a force for good in the world. Nothing that has followed, nothing, can tarnish your honor or diminish your accomplishments. To you and to the honored dead, our country is forever grateful. In the weeks and months following the 9/11 attacks, I was proud to lead an amazing, resilient, united people. When it comes to the unity of America, those days seem distant from our own. Malign force seems at work in our common life that turns every disagreement into an argument and every argument into a clash of cultures. So much of our politics has become a naked appeal to anger, fear, and resentment. That leaves us worried about our nation and our future together. I come without explanations or solutions. I can only tell you what I've seen. On America's day of trial and grief, I saw millions of people instinctively grab for a neighbor's hand and rally to the cause of one another. That is the America I know. I saw millions of people instinctively grab for a neighbor's hand and rally to the cause of one another. That is the America I know. At a time when religious bigotry might have flowed freely, I saw Americans reject prejudice and embrace people of Muslim faith. That is the nation I know. At a time when nativism could have stirred hatred and violence against people perceived as outsiders, I saw Americans reaffirm their welcome to immigrants and refugees. That is the nation I know. At a time when some viewed the rising generation as individualistic and decadent, I saw young people embrace an ethic of service and rise to selfless action. That is the nation I know. This is not mere nostalgia. It is the truest version of ourselves. It is what we have been and what we can be again. 20 years ago, terrorists chose a random group of Americans on a routine flight to be collateral damage in a spectacular act of terror. The 33 passengers and 7 crew of Flight 93 could have been any group of citizens selected by fate. In a sense, they stood in for us all. The terrorists soon discovered that a random group of Americans is an exceptional group of people facing an impossible circumstance. They comforted their loved ones by phone, braced each other for action, and defeated the designs of evil. These Americans were brave, strong, and united in ways that shocked the terrorists. but should not surprise any of us. This is the nation we know. And whenever we need hope and inspiration, we can look to the skies and remember. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. President, for those beautiful, insightful words. You know, President Bush and Mrs. Bush have visited here several times, and we are delighted, of course, to have them with us here today, now that the memorial has been completed. The design for this memorial, which so beautifully frames this site, is the work of Paul Murdoch Architects. A deeply felt thank you to Paul and Melina Murdoch, who are with us here today, and to their entire team for envisioning the memorial that has literally sculpted the landscape in an unforgettable manner, and which will be visited by millions of people for generations to come. Once again, thank you to Paul and Melina and your entire team. Thank you, sir. How could we not embrace, to my left, the incredible men and women of the President's own United States Marine Band? Formed in 1798, it's America's oldest continuously active professional musical organization. Think about that. Its mission is to perform for the United States President and the Commandant of the Marine Corps. We are truly privileged to enjoy this national treasure. Ladies and gentlemen, please once again join me in thanking and appreciating the incredible President's own. Thank you, Colonel. At this time, I am proud to welcome the Secretary of the United States Department of the Interior, Deb Holland, the 54th person entrusted with that responsibility. She leads a department which employs more than 70,000 people, whose mission it is to protect and manage this country's natural resources, as well as our beautiful and absolutely powerful cultural heritage. Would you all please join me in welcoming Secretary Deb Holland.
Thank you all so much. President Bush, thank you for your inspiring words. Madam Vice President, very honored to be here with you. Families, friends, active duty service personnel, thank you so much for the opportunity to join you all on this somber anniversary. 20 years ago, I was waking up to get my first grader ready for school and was stunned by the news on the radio. I rushed to turn on the TV and watch the imagery in disbelief. Like many parents, I nervously took my child to school. The pickup line was longer than usual that day. I know parents just wanted to hold their children close as soon as they could. Instead of being in a rush to get to their next event, soccer practice, or home for homework, parents, students, teachers, and school support staff joined hands around the school for a moment of silence. We mourned together. Every year on this day, we remember those we lost. We remember the first responders who ran in when everyone was running out. We remember the emergency crews who helped in the aftermath of that fateful day. We remember where we were and how we felt. And on this hallowed ground, we remember the heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice to save others. We honor their families, and we recognize the selfless patriotism they demonstrated on that September morning 20 years ago. It is with the support of the families of Flight 93, the Flight 93 Advisory Commission, the Flight 93 Memorial Task Force, Friends of Flight 93, and the National Park Foundation that this memorial serves as an enduring reminder of their bravery. There's no way to know how many lives these heroes saved, but we show our gratitude by visiting this place, gathering with loved ones, and most importantly, building a country where their children and grandchildren can thrive. Building a country of which they would be proud. We at the Interior Department will live up to that sacred responsibility by being good stewards of this memorial for generations to come. I appreciate everyone who works so hard every day, including our National Park Service employees and the volunteers, to care for this land, to honor it for those who were lost, so that we may never forget their sacrifice. My child is grown now. Many like them have little, if any, memory of that day when our nation came together in grief. But thanks to this memorial, they and other children will know the story of what happened here. A set of brave individuals who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Their story will live on. To continue our remembrance, it is my honor and privilege to introduce our esteemed Vice President, Kamala Harris.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. President Bush, it is my honor to be on this stage with you and Mrs. Laura Bush, and thank you, President Bush, for your words. They are as resonant today as the words you spoke 20 years ago. Governor Tom Wolfe, Superintendent Stephen Clark, Madam Secretary, and the President of the Families of Flight 93, Gordon Felt. It is truly an honor to be with all of you at this field of honor. We are joined today, of course, by the family and friends of the 40 passengers and crew members of Flight 93. And we stand today with all those who lost someone on September 11th, 2001, and in the aftermath of the attacks. So many in our nation, too many in our nation, have deeply felt the passage of time these last 20 years. Every birthday, your loved one missed. Every holiday, every time her favorite team won or his favorite song came on the radio. Every time you've tucked in your children or dropped them off at college. You have felt every day, every week, and every year that has passed these 20 years. So please know your nation sees you, and we stand with you, and we support you. We are gathered today on hallowed ground, at this place that has been sanctified by sacrifice, to honor the heroism that the 40 passengers and crew members showed in the face of grave terrorism. I remember when I first learned about what happened on that fateful flight. What happened on Flight 93 told us then, and it still tells us, so much about the courage of those on board who gave everything they possibly could, about the resolve of the first responders who risked everything, and about the resilience of the American people. On this 20th anniversary, on this solemn day of remembrance, we must challenge ourselves, yes, to look back, to remember, for the sake of our children, for the sake of their children. And for that reason, we must also look forward. We must also look toward the future. Because in the end, I do believe that is what the 40 were fighting for. Their future and ours. On the days that followed, September 11th, 2001, we were all reminded that unity is possible in America. We were reminded also that unity is imperative in America. It is essential to our shared prosperity, to our national security, and to our standing in the world. And by unity, I don't mean uniformity. We had differences of opinion in 2001, as we do in 2021. And I believe that in America, our diversity is our strength. At the same time, we saw after 9/11 how fear can be used to sow division in our nation. As Sikh and Muslim Americans were targeted because of how they looked or how they worshiped. But we also saw what happens when so many Americans, in the spirit of our nation, stand in solidarity with all people and their fellow American, with those who experience violence and discrimination, when we stand together. And looking back, we remember the vast majority of Americans were unified in purpose to help families heal, to help communities recover, to defend our nation, and to keep us safe. In a time of outright terror, we turned toward each other. In the face of a stranger, we saw a neighbor and a friend. That time reminded us the significance and the strength of our unity as Americans, and that it is possible in America. So, moments from now, we will leave this hallowed place, still carrying with us the pain of this loss, this tremendous loss, and still, the future will continue to unfold. We will face new challenges, challenges that we could not have seen 20 years ago. We will seize opportunities that were at one time unimaginable. And we know that what lies ahead is not certain. It is never certain. It has never been. But I know this. If we do the hard work of working together as Americans, if we remain united in purpose, we will be prepared for whatever comes next. The 40 passengers and crew members of Flight 93, as we all know, they didn't know each other. Most of them didn't know each other. They were different people from different places. They were on that particular flight for different reasons. But they did not focus on what may separate us. No, they focused on what we all share, on the humanity we all share. In a matter of minutes, in the most dire of circumstances, the 40 responded as one. They fought for their own lives and to save the lives of countless others at our nation's capital. After today, it is my hope and prayer that we continue to honor their courage, their conviction, with our own, that we honor their unity by strengthening our common bonds, by strengthening our global partnerships, and by always living out our highest ideals. This work will not be easy, it never has been, and it will take all of us believing in who we are as a nation, and it will take all of us going forth to work together. Thank you all. May God bless you, and may God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you again, Madam Vice President. Beautiful words. Before this national memorial was created, local residents, calling themselves ambassadors, took responsibility to watch over this hallowed ground and welcome visitors from near and far. Next year in January, we will mark the 20th anniversary, of that group. I would like to thank everyone who has given their time as a Flight 93 ambassador over the years, as you are, in many ways, the heart and soul of this very special place. Thank you all. Folks, it's literally over 10,000 hours a year by our ambassadors every day of the year, including those bitter, cold Western Pennsylvania February mornings. You will see, yes ma'am, our ambassadors. They're truly incredible people, and again, they were here since day one. As we close, if I may, today I am wearing a watch worn by my great-uncle William Joseph Clark, who was killed in the First World War. I wear it just 3 times a year. Memorial Day, Veterans Day, and September 11th. It is a cherished heirloom and an instrument which marks the passage of time. 20 years. The amount of time since September 11, 2001 is but a brief span in the history of this great nation. Time. We will always remember what happened more than 200 years ago at Independence Hall, where our country was born and our Constitution was signed. Time. We will always remember what happened more than 150 years ago at countless fields when our country fought an internal conflict from which it emerged even stronger and even more than united than ever. Time. We will always remember what happened more than 100 years ago when our nation joined the struggle to make the world safe for democracy and secured voting rights for women here at home. Time. We will always remember what happened more than 50 years ago across this country when brave citizens risked their lives to make our nation live up to its founding principles. Time. And undoubtedly, we shall always remember what happened 20 years ago today, when an attack on our nation brought forth an inspiring display of courage from 40 passengers and crew members aboard Flight 93. Again, confronted by an unprecedented situation, they drew upon reserves of inner strength, acted and saved many lives. Time. As the years go by, the passage of time will only strengthen the importance of their story and this place in the history of our nation. Let us never forget what they did here. Let us always remember the lives lost that day in New York, at the Pentagon, and here in this field of honor. Among the more than 400 sites cared for by the National Park Service and many of our sacred historic places. This hallowed ground next to us, the resting place of the 40 heroes of Flight 93. Ladies and gentlemen, your loved ones is such a place. It too is one of the most important sites in our country, a place where brave men and women made history and shaped the future. When the events of September 11th have passed from living memory, this memorial, created through the tireless efforts of so many, will allow future generations to remember the inspiring story of Flight 93. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we truly are grateful to all of you for making and taking time on this special, special day to join us in remembering and honoring the 40 heroes whose names are inscribed on that wall. To those around the world, to everyone with us here today, and our cherished, cherished family members, thank you all so very, very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated until the ceremonial gate has been opened.
land of the noble free. Thy name I love. I love thy rocks and rills, thy woods and templed hills. My heart with rapture thrills like that above. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I see. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's Bride, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, let freedom, let freedom ring.
Now, the families of Flight 93 are invited to the Wall of Names and the sacred ground for a private wreath-laying ceremony. Thank you for attending today's service.